Hi, this is Numeric Citizen here. In today's video, I want to share my experience and observations after using custom domains with Craft. Before talking about custom domains, let me explain what happens when you share a document or a page using Craft. When you do so, Craft will create a web address which is unique to the page that you are sharing. As you can see on the screen right now, this is the web address that Craft created when I first shared the Craft Bible. Here I'm using the Craft Bible as an example of a shared document or a shared page. As you can see, this web address is pretty hard to understand or even remember. So you really have to share it by email or by text messages to others so they can access your shared page. There has to be a better way, and this is where the custom domain feature comes into play. So let's review the reasons why we should or we could use custom domains with Craft. The first reason is branding and control. So let's consider this example on the screen right now. So let's say somebody gives you his or her business card, and you look at the business card and you see the email address written like this, which end with gmail.com. Ask yourself, what is your perception of this when you're reading this business card? What if the business card was instead using a different email address which used the company's name instead? So you would get a different email address, and I'm pretty sure that your perception of this company would probably change. So branding is very important. The other reason is that it's much easier to remember friendly name than email address like Craft is using. So it's really about having control or having a way to use your own naming convention for use when you share a page or a document with others. The other reason is that it's much easier to use friendly names and for searching on the web with Google, which brings me to the fourth reason why you should use a custom domain is the fact that it's probably helping search engine optimization to use friendly name instead of cryptic domain names like we use usually with Craft. So those are the reasons why custom domains with Craft is very important. So now we can use them with Craft. We've been waiting a long time for Craft to support custom domains. And while we were all waiting for that to happen, I published or wrote an article on how Craft could eventually add custom domain support. This is the document that you can see on the screen right now, and I'll put the original link of this document in the YouTube video description. So I explained why and how custom domain could be introduced in Craft, and even gave an example or where the option could be configured within Craft, within the configuration of a space, a user space. What could be the custom domain requirements, and also what type of custom domain support that could be introduced with a future version of Craft. So I gave a lot of example and explanation. When the support for custom domain came out, which is pretty recently with version 2.3.2, I read the information that was published at the time, and then eventually I decided myself to test the feature. But I quickly found out that to use the custom domain feature, you have to be on the business plan subscription. At first I was pretty upset by that, because I thought it would be a given thing to the current user using the personal pro plan. So I decided to upgrade to the business plan, and I tried the feature myself. And after a while, I came here on the Let's Talk About Craft Custom Domain Support document, and I created an update to this website where I explain all the details of what it entails to add a custom domain to your document. So this is what I'm going to explain to you today on how I did my test of this feature in Craft. So the first thing I want to tell you is that I am not paid by Craft to use the business plan. This is my own money that I'm using to test the feature and get some experience with it. So that being said, I read the documentation, the release notes, and everything that was available when the custom domain support was introduced. And then I quickly figured out that there was a problem with my own plans of using custom domain. So let me explain in more details how custom domain introduction has been inserted into the feature set of Craft. First, let's remember that every user of Craft, whatever the subscription plan he or she is using, will get a private space. This is what you see on the screen here that I'm explaining. So the private space comes with every user. So this is where the documents you create by default will go. Then you can enable or you can add new space in order to better organize the content. So you can create as many space as you want. And then you can be, as a Craft user, or if you're not a Craft user, you can be invited to participate in a Craft space by other user by receiving an invite email to join a already existing Craft space. This is the third boxes that you see on the screen. This is where the feature of custom domain has been introduced. When you first subscribe to a business plan subscription, there is a space, a team that will be created in order to store the document associated with this subscription. And as the user who is actually upgrading to the business plan, you kind of become the owner of this team within Craft. And within that team, there is a space that is created so you can store your documents that are going to be used in the context of the business plan subscription. The thing that you really have to understand is that there's only one custom domain associated by Craft to the team that is created under the business subscription. In other words, if you want to have different custom domain to be used in order to hide the shared documents that you are sharing, you will need a new subscription for each custom domain that you plan to use. So it's very important to understand that. So also, all the documents that you are creating within the business plan subscription will share the same custom domain setup for every documents. So what it means is that any documents that is sitting within your private space, you won't be able to use the custom domain support. Also, if you create a new personal space to store new documents, you won't be able again to use the custom domain support. You could be able to use custom domain if you are invited to a team to a space which belongs to a team within a subscription. In that case, this is possible to share a document within a custom domain, but it would be a case where you don't control the configuration of the custom domain itself. This is the owner of the space within the other subscription that will have to configure this portion. So I think it summarizes how custom domain has been introduced within the Craft ecosystem. So where do you configure the custom domain? The custom domain is configured at the admin site that is made available to the subscription of the business plan. This is what you're seeing right now on the screen. This is the overview page for the theme that has been created when I subscribe to the business plan subscription, and I name that theme the Numeric Citizen World. This is where you see the place where some options can be set, like the theme logo, which will be used to customize the branding of your page with the top right corner of each shared document. Instead of seeing the Craft default logo, you can set your own design to be shown at this place, and also you can set a link that is being used if the user clicks on the custom icon on this page. And this is also where you will customize or you'll define the custom domain that you want to use. The custom domain is, like it is shown right now, use a subdomain followed by the main domain itself. This is mandatory. This is requirements by the Craft environment in order to work. The other pages that you see in the theme is the member page, where you'll be the owner, or you'll be the first administrator of this environment that will be added to this as a member. This is the billing information, like the credit card used for the billing of the members. And this is where you can create theme space. There is one that I have created, which is, I'll explain what it is actually later. So this is the first space where you can put all the document that will share the custom domain that is being set up here. So this is an overview of the admin site that you get where you have access once you subscribe to the business plan, and this is where you configure the custom domain. So the first thing you do when you set up the custom domain is to go to the admin site and add the domain that you want to use. This is shown here on the screen, so I took a screenshot of the custom domain setup sequence. The first thing is to add the custom domain, and this is where they ask you to use the subdomain. So I'm already owner of the Numeric Citizen.io, and I added a subdomain which is called world. So I added world.numericcitizen.io, and then I clicked continue. When you do that, you are presented with a domain DNS settings that you will need to do on the DNS admin page, which is available to the provider of the DNS where the domain that you own has been parked or has been defined. In my case, I was using GoDaddy, but there's a lot of examples that are being shown in the documentation. So you'll have to create 2 DNS records in the DNS admin page in order for the feature to work correctly. Once it is done, there's the first stage where Craft will test for the functionality of the DNS that you configured, and while the DNS propagation is complete over around the world, eventually the status will change from yellow and it will go to green, which means that the DNS is able to resolve the name that you entered as a subdomain, as a custom domain. Once the custom domain has been configured properly, you can start creating documents and share them using the custom domain that you just configured. So the first thing you have to know is that the document needs to be created in the space which lives in the themes which controls the custom domain, where the theme has been created, there's a space living there, and the document has to be created within that space. So once you select the right space, we create a new document and then you want to share it. The sharing document option will change a bit. You'll see the two options. You'll be able to use the default craft.do domain to share your document, or you should see a new option corresponding to the custom domain that you configured. So when you do that, you select the second option, you have to give a path to your document in order to be available to others. By default, Craft will keep creating cryptic names in order to share this document. It's up to you to change the path name to whatever you want. So you can give it a name or you can leave it blank. I have to say something regarding the use of the trailing slash in the web address. If a user was to enter https world.numericcitizen.io without anything else, the user will be presented with this document which says the document link is not recognized. What it means is that Craft was not able to find the document since the user trying to reach the document didn't enter the path of the document. For that, I would suggest to create a special page, a document, in fact, in your in the space where the path will be a /. So every user who enters the / will be presented with the document with the path, with a / as a path name. And instead of seeing this pretty generic document, they will be shown with a more personalized page not found. And this is where you can ask the user to enter the correct path to this document. So this is where I created one for the purpose of the numericcitizen.io website that I have created. So to test the custom domain feature, I have created a custom domain for the Numeric Citizen IO website. So officially, the Numeric Citizen IO website under the custom domain feature of Craft has been set like this. So everyone who will enter this address will hit the website. But what if the user enter a / without any trailing document path? Or what if the user enter the full web address without even entering the trailing /? So let me show you how it is configured within the Craft environment. So if I switch back to the Craft environment, so this is the actual website that is being shown within Craft. This is a default web page. And if I go in the shared option, this is where I'll enter the domain that I want to use. So I set up to use the world.numericcitizen.io custom domain instead of the usual craft.do domain. And then this is where I entered the path where I set to be / meta. If the user doesn't enter the / meta, it will be presented with a document not found. So in order to kind of redirect the user to the right URL, I created the OOPSI page with which is shared also, and where the path has been left empty. So either by entering the trailing / or just leaving the web address without anything at the end of it, the user will be presented with this page. So this is the way that you can kind of simulate what a normal website will do when in different situations. So the end result is the following. Actually, right now, there is a website which I created, and it is being hosted on the blot.im web service. I want to get rid of this web service and move to a craft-only solution. So in order to do that, I'm using the custom domain feature of Craft. And the end result is this one. So it may look different, but it's exactly the same the same content. The path to access the default page for this website is the web address that I'm using. If I want to try what I set up and I enter only the / at the end of the web address, then this is where I'm getting the oopsie page where the user will be able to instead type and hit this the correct web address and see the actual website. And the branding is here on the top right, where instead of showing the craft icon, I chose to set up a Numeric Citizen icon, where I'll be able to click on this and it will show my Linktree page. Now that you have an overview how Craft support custom domains, and that you maybe understand or have a better idea on how to use the feature, I want to explain a few or share a few observations about the feature. The first thing is, let me consider the Craft Bible. Let's say I want to use a custom domain for the Craft Bible. The problem is the Craft Bible right now, as you can see in my Craft environment, is sitting in a folder, but everything there are sitting in my private space. In order to share this document within a custom domain, right now, I have to move this document outside of my private space and into a space under the business subscription. And this is not an easy task to do right now. But the problem is when I click on the shared option here, document and URL is available. So it's kind of like the thought of implementing or adding support for custom domain on private space documents, but it's not the case, because if I click on that, the personal space does not support custom domains as explained by this alert. So it's weird that the option is not available, but add the feature in the user interface. So this is kind of confusing. Maybe it's because Craft eventually, sooner rather than later, will introduce the feature to personal pro user. I don't know. It's pure speculation. I don't have any inside information about that. But I just find this to be a bit confusing to have the option, even though it's not available to a private space. So now if I go back to the idea of moving a document between space, moving a document between the private space and another space sitting within the team which owns the custom domain, links between the document will break, and also I lose the any comments that user has been posting at the end of the Craft Bible in the guest book. So I don't want to lose that. So right now, as I'm creating this video, I cannot move the Craft Bible under its own name, even though if I go in this slide here, even though using the following example here, the craftbible.info, this would be much easier to locate the document itself instead of using this cryptic web address. So I'll have to wait for Craft to add more options or more flexibility to the custom domain feature. So in summary, make no mistake, I'm quite happy to see custom domain comes to Craft. My only issue is that it's limited to the business plan subscription, and only one custom domain is available under each team under the business plan. To support many different custom domain, you would need as many business plan subscription, which can become pretty expensive in the long run if you are a creator who is using Craft to maintain different documents that looks like or act like different websites. This is something that I'd like to do eventually with Craft, but I'll have to put that project on hold until Craft add more flexibility to the custom domain feature. I think it will come eventually, but I don't know when. As you may know already, we have to be patient in regards to feature addition or tweaking within Craft. So again, good thing to be able to use custom domain, but I'll have to wait for my own plan to become a reality, which is a bit sad. So that's it for this video about custom domain in Craft. Thank you for watching. If you don't subscribe to my YouTube channel, now it's time to do so by clicking on the subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, just hit like and feel free to post comments or ask questions to the bottom of this video, and I'll be more than happy to answer or give you feedback. Thank you again for watching this video, and thank you again for being there, and catch you guys later. Bye.